Hey everyone, my name's Brandon. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Phantom, and yeah, thanks for having me to chat.
Hello and welcome to Reimagine 2021. This is our 1 year anniversary and 10th edition of our conference. Super excited about that. Thank you for all for supporting us really throughout the year. COVID was crazy. Here we are still doing it. We're going to continue on until otherwise, until we have no viewers. So, we host these events as part of our monthly series, bringing you nothing but the best projects, bright minds, and leaders in the space. We've been fortunate enough to invite many talented individuals and teams to come speak with us, providing updates, insights, and all the above that's happening in crypto. I'll be your host today, Adam, from the Mouseball team, where we focus on early stage investments through our accelerator or providing development support to a growing number of projects, as well as education within our Mouseball University program. So our main objectives with not only Mouseball and Reimagine, but they're pretty simple. Our goals are to increase adoption, use cases, and real world applications. That's kind of our goal, and that's our mission here, is to educate and drop some knowledge from all these individuals and teams in the space. So basically, we seek to educate our audience by our audience on blockchain by helping them understand crypto's real impact. Wow, what's going on, Brandon? How you doing, man? Without further ado, that was too much talking in the beginning. Let me go ahead and introduce you an exciting guest today. They're tackling a bunch of issues in DeFi and crypto, and so very fortunate to have Brandon here, CEO and co-founder of Phantom. How you doing, man?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate it. Just learned here we're both located in the Bay Area, trying to spread our wings a little bit as things open up. But I might be, we might be ahead of our skis as I hear all the news here, especially, in SF. But glad to have you, man. So, we've been doing this Reimagine thing for a year. Everybody has their own unique journey, how they fell down the rabbit hole. They first came across Bitcoin, or they were just developing and stumbled upon it. What's kind of your story, man? You guys are a newer team. You guys are, hitting the streets pretty hard. There's a lot of news, around funding, which is great. But what's your story into blockchain crypto?
Cool, yeah. Yeah, so basically I got my start sort of in the blockchain space around 4 years ago or so, as part of the early team at ZeroX. And ZeroX builds decentralized exchange technology on Ethereum, if you're not familiar. Prior to that, I was sort of, working at Twitter as an engineer for over 4 years, sort of more in the Web 2.0 consumer internet space, if you will, or working on social networking stuff and all of that. And basically after 4 years, became quite sort of disillusioned with the sort of cycle of work that you do at these sort of large consumer internet companies. So, I think there's all these anecdotes around, they're very, very slow moving and inefficient and all of that. But, the cycle of work itself also becomes quite mundane once you sort of get to that sort of size. There's, it becomes a lot about A/B testing and politics, and it's a bit of a loop that I sort of, wanted to kind of break out of. So, after 4 years of that, I was kind of just like looking for kind of a complete change of pace, and found myself totally engrossed by a lot of the stuff that was happening with Ethereum. So this is mid 2017. Yeah, I found myself kind of falling down that the proverbial crypto rabbit hole, and just kind of finding myself really intrigued with a lot of these visions that people are putting together around decentralized applications. And people were referencing things like decentralized Twitter and decentralized Uber and this sort of thing. And I feel like when you first hear about some of those ideas, it sort of for me specifically, I was kind of in this pattern of work for the past 4 years. My brain had sort of become wired to think about internet applications or consumer applications in a certain way. And then when you sort of hear about these applications that you know and love and contribute to, being sort of framed in this totally different way, sort of gets the gears turning again. So yeah, basically found myself like sort of reading every white paper I could find. You know, there was no shortage of those around that time. There's dozens of new ones popping up every day, and each with their own little kernel of interesting ideas. So found myself spending more time doing that, reading those, than my day job. So you know, basically took that as a signal to dive full time. So yeah, you know, basically, I mentioned some of these things like decentralized Twitter and Uber, and because of my personal consumer internet background, you know, I found myself thinking about those things quite a bit, but and wanting to join something like that. But after sort of digging around and talking with a lot of people, realized that the sort of space and technology back then was just, and even now is you know, is way too immature for that type of mass consumer tech. And so, you know, basically realized that back in 2017, it was sort of more of the time to be building infrastructure. So anyway, I ended up finding my way towards 0x, which was sort of an interesting hybrid of both infrastructural type work, but also consumer work with trading applications, and trading still sort of being the most popular application of decentralized tech out there. And
did it all make sense to you, man, when you're kind of reading these white papers coming from Twitter, which it's ironic that, you know, obviously Twitter is kind of in the game of crypto, right? But it seemed like at that time, the decentralized Twitters, the Ubers, everybody was trying to decentralize everything, right? After reading those papers, like, first of all, did it make sense of like what blockchain, you know, which is kind of a buzzword in terms of distributed systems, you know, cryptography, you know, decentralization in terms of like nodes and protocols and all that. Did you see like a bigger vision for blockchain at that point?
Yeah, I will say, you know, during that time, obviously not every single white paper made sense.
Totally.
And there are a lot of just interesting ideas floating around, and a lot of people just trying to figure out what blockchains were good for. And still to this day, trying to figure it out. And you know, at that time, there's a lot of issues that people are bringing up just in general with the internet around content moderation or decentralization of certain power structures and stuff like that, which were you know, really interesting. I think, you know, blockchains don't necessarily apply to all of those things, but I think there's some cool tech around decentralized social networking and stuff that's sort of emerging nowadays. But yeah, definitely didn't make total sense to me back then, but that, you know, was part of the allure. I was like, I really want to understand what this stuff, and, you know, become part of the movement of trying to figure out what it's good for. So that's sort of.
And how about now? And how about now? Like, what are blockchains to you now that it's matured a little bit? You know, at that point, same thing, which is why we launched Melspell. You know, under delivering, raising off white papers, kind of the whole narrative around, you know, scams and frauds and cryptocurrencies in general. But there's a lot of teams, you know, early on that were actually building cool things, right? Definitely like visionary, but like understood the technology, what works, what doesn't work, and not just assuming and, you know, putting words together on their white paper to make it sound like freaking perfect, to be honest. And so that's why we got in the business on the accelerator and incubator side, was to really support the teams that were trying to build something. And we had a lot of engineers to really support that, and you know, help them along their journey into a functioning product, an MVP, driving users and revenue, or whatever the case is, right? So what does it mean to you now? I mean, 0x was pretty cool. The space is mature. A lot of you know, protocols are now launched. A lot of dApps, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, like the whole decentralization aspect. Like, do you see it? I mean, blockchain is not a cure for everything, but it's definitely going to touch a lot of a lot of what we do in our daily lives. I think at some point, whether it's
Mhm.
finance, supply chain, healthcare, data integrity, or like, not only owning but controlling your own data. So what over your period of time, how do you see it? How has your blockchain, perception or perspectives evolved?
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say it's definitely what's the right way to put it? It's definitely changed for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
and throughout time, and I think I'm still in the process of forming and sort of honing my own thoughts and opinions. But I'd say my experience is specifically centered around DeFi and geared around that, just because that's how I spent the last that couple of years. And basically my take on it right now is blockchains sort of their permissionless and open nature basically fosters an environment where there can be a lot of innovation from all parts of the globe, and anyone can participate. And so, yeah, and this DeFi sort of movement that's popped up has just been
Sure.
a really awesome sort of byproduct of that. And it's just sort of allowing a lot of these really interesting ideas and experiments to sort of flourish. Whereas before, there would be no really battleground for a lot of these things to get tested. Yeah.
Totally. Accessibility to well, we'll stick to DeFi, like accessibility to like financial services. We at one point it was like blockchain and enterprise, and I haven't heard that in a long time. I think we moved past that, and then private chain, permission versus permissionless, haven't like gone down that like discussion in a long time. And then DeFi blew up, last year. Well, a lot of teams, 0x has been in the game for a long time on the
Mhm.
DeFi front. And so so you go from 0x and you go directly to Phantom, and what is Phantom, the project that you co-founded?
Yeah. So, Phantom, we're extremely early stage company, just got started back in April of this year. And yeah, basically Phantom is a non-custodial crypto wallet that helps users self-manage their own crypto, and is geared towards actually helping them do stuff with it. So, in its current form, Phantom basically is a browser extension that turns your browser into a crypto wallet through this extension-based installation, and sort of helps users access a world of decentralized applications. So, for example, Uniswap or Matcha, which is produced by 0x, or OpenSea, those things would be examples of decentralized applications, sort of things that you kind of show up, you plug your wallet in, and then the app helps you sort of form these transactions to interact with them. So those are the types of applications that we want to sort of help enable and flourish. Yeah, basically right now we're sort of currently the sort of flagship wallet on the Solana ecosystem. And yeah, we're looking forward to sort of expand out and in scope and everything, this year and onwards.
Lots to unpack there. I got to go back into that whole front facing, intro on Phantom. All right, so let's break down the wallet situation.
Sure.
What made you choose, I guess, a web browser type of solution? And is it the same as your standalone wallet? Because I know the web browser, you're able to not have to worry. It's streamlined. And maybe you can elaborate on that too for those watching, right? Like, what's
Mhm.
the difference of not all the wallets in the market? Sorry, all the wallets in the market, but the types of wallets, right, that are available that people don't know about, meaning hardware wallet, web wallet, mobile wallet, et cetera, et cetera. Because you guys are, I mean, I've been in the space for a little bit, so what you guys are providing is definitely a solution to help further adoption, help people get into the space, right? There's all these other like fundamentals that were challenges since we've both been in the space of of the cumbersome experience, the UI UX, and you guys are tackling all that, all into this Phantom app. So let me reverse back. The web browser, like why is that important as opposed to like, or the web browser wallet, web wallet, as opposed to like another type of, I don't know, standalone wallet or hardware wallet?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I guess to be clear, like we definitely want to meet users where they are and sort of develop the end goal is to definitely develop sort of a suite of clients where anyone can use Phantom on their phone or browser or mobile browser or something like that. But we sort of chosen to begin with this browser extension based format. And I'd say there's a couple reasons for that. So one is, spend some time back at 0x, developing a number of sort of widely used decentralized apps, one of which is called Matcha, sees a lot of usage, pushes a lot of volume and all of that. And, from our findings, basically saw that vast majority of transactions, especially high value transactions, were still being made through MetaMask versus something like Wallet Connect or you have some other things like Taurus or Portis or some of those. And so, basically back in 2017, 2018, a lot of wallets went for, MetaMask was around. A lot of people went for sort of, hey, we're going to build a wallet, but we're going to do it completely differently in this new way, X, Y, or Z. A lot of those experiments sort of got tried, and what ended up happening is, this browser extension based format is really what people like to use, and so it's sort of shown in the market data. So, we're basically not trying to reinvent the wheel too much. We're sort of taking what's working and taking that formula and improving on it, at least at first. And yeah, I gotta say the other major thing is that we basically we want to focus on a wallet that actually helps people do stuff with their crypto, not just hold it. And so this browser extension based format really dovetails with that because there's sort of, you've seen sort of this explosion of all these different applications that people are putting out there. And a lot of them are just get access through the browser and are designed for more desktop browser type experiences. And so, yeah, we want to help people be able to sort of access those types of applications. And that's sort of our primary focus.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's super important, and what I take from that is like product market fit. Kind of going back to the intro in terms of a decentralized Twitter, decentralized Uber, decentralized Airbnb. Everybody went like completely from one extreme to the other, 2.0 to Web 3.0, like super quick. But like the market isn't ready for that. Like the infrastructure wasn't ready. And what I hear from you guys is like you've taken everything in, you've listened to feedback, what users want, and not only that, like trying to maintain what we're used to, right? Like when wallets were created a few years back, and just in general in crypto, it still is, right? Everybody's trying to figure it out, like the UI UX, but you guys really listened, and I think that's important. Like, where are the users, right? And yesterday I was talking to during one of the interviews, and like one of the things he said was like, it's not the best technology, it's the technology that gets most adopted that wins. It can be the best, it cannot be the best, but the one that provides utility is the one, that you can, innovate on and like streamline it and just, create growth there. So appreciate that. And you touched on
We're kind of in a lucky spot nowadays because there
totally.
are so many more users. Back then, a lot of people were, just trying to figure things out or pushing the world in one direction or another. I think we're a lot more fortunate nowadays because there are quite a few users out there.
Definitely.
And especially in the crypto space, there are quite a few there are a lot of vocal people, a lot of the interaction between consumers and developers is actually quite fluid. There's people always on Discord and Twitter and stuff like that. So we do sort of enjoy this ability to be able to like talk to users directly and all of that very closely. So
I wasn't gonna ask this question, but you're bringing it up. Like, and I've chatted about this in the other like conference interviews. Is like community, right? Like, how important is community in blockchain? Because I feel in the blockchain space in general, it's probably the only industry where like you're held accountable. Not only, but you're held accountable for delivering, sticking to the roadmap, like milestones, and not only that, like you just said, updating, communicating, whether it's blog, Twitter, AMAs, video content like this to kind of get more insight, more information on what the team's doing. So how important is that, like, the community aspect or, the engagement between, project and users?
Yeah, super important. I mean, we're developing this app for users, and we're lucky to have them sort of be like so willing to give feedback and so direct and everything. And a lot of these early users become these sort of super fans, and help
Sure.
spread the brand and sort of mission and vision to other people. And yeah, crypto is very unique in that way. It's in terms of like building consumer applications, it's very few. I was thinking about this there's very few other industries where that's
Yeah.
actually the case. I think one other big one that I can think of is gaming. Like you get these like gaming subreddits with like people like theory crafting and doing all sorts of stuff there, and those developers also enjoy sort of having that very direct connection with the users. But in other
And, well,
industries, it's
and
not
there's
really not like that.
and there's a close relationship between crypto and gaming. So
Yeah,
that's,
that's true too.
right. There's definitely like similarities there, and like the type of profiles or the user profile is very similar, like engaging. People think these, what did that lady say yesterday? Shady super coders or something like that, that are pretty quiet. Now they're pretty vocal, like throughout the internet, throughout the web. Like everybody's pretty loud in this space. Maybe, yeah, through content, through whatever format or channel. And so you brought up a couple other things too, like you didn't want it just to be a wallet to hold, so which is interesting. For those that are tuning in, go to Phantom. What's the website? What's your website?
uh,
Phantom.app.
Phantom.app. Yeah.
Yeah, Phantom. Everybody go take a look there. You guys are providing services. I'd like to touch on um that concept really of like, we don't just want, it's not just a wallet to hold balances and your tokens and all that, but touch on the things that you are providing to your users that make your users want to continue, using Phantom, one. And then two, how do you prioritize some of these services, because it's a lot of work on the development front, integration, implementation. So how do you
Yeah.
prioritize some of the, and then you're listening, like, you're listening to your community too. These things take weeks to months to build out. So yeah, one, like touch on some of the services, and then two, how do you prioritize that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Prioritization is definitely super difficult for us, just given how greenfield everything is. There's so many different things and sort of different features that we could potentially go into, but
Totally.
yeah, it just becomes an exercise in prioritizing, and also in, yeah, like you alluded to, really listening to users and stuff like that. But I mean, the wallet provides sort of key features that you would sort of expect from any wallet. So token management, but something that we want to provide is interacting with dApps, which I've mentioned. But yeah, the cool thing about the wallet is that we can also sort of offer things that people love doing in dApps, but sort of distill them into like a more bite-sized, snackable sort of format for use within the wallet. So we have like an in-wallet swapper that people love using, and yeah, basically, and oh yeah, one sort of larger surface is NFTs. So we allow people to sort of view and interact with NFTs in the wallet, and that's something that users really love. They're sharing a lot of screenshots and sharing their collections with one another. But yeah, besides that, we're trying to just incorporate sort of more verbs into the wallet. So stuff like staking and stuff like that.
And and Is Phantom considered like, is it open source in terms of like a money Lego? Like, can people take Phantom and incorporate it into their own, new idea and concept?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a money Lego the same way that you would consider something like Uniswap or Compound. We don't have our own, at the moment, our own set of like smart contracts or anything like that. But it's a tool to help enable builders to bring like to have users basically sign into their site. So it's sort of the sign-in system for this new Web 3.0 stack.
So they
And
can integrate it.
so
So they can integrate Phantom to onboard.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's very similar to how a developer might approach using MetaMask in the Ethereum world currently. Basically, without wallets, there's no real way for someone to interact with your application. So that's kind of what we're providing right now on the Solana side, but soon on the Ethereum side as well.
Great. Just to kind of even stay on that, like, how do we get more developers into the space? You were a developer at Twitter. How has your journey been? We have students watching right now. We have, traditional developers tuning into this all over the world, trying to figure out what their next project is going to be, what the next, emerging tech's going to be. And maybe they're going down a similar path, that you did from the old, Web 2.0 centralized to now, distributed Web 3.0 systems. How do we get more? And you kind of you touched on it a little bit, like the solution you're providing allows developers to kind of plug and play, leverage it. And you're an engineer. You're an engineer, right? Engineer developer by trade. So yeah, how do we get more devs into the space? There's kind of a shortage of talent, and people are trying to figure out, what the next move is.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say just like approach the space with a really open mind. I feel like a lot of times the ideas and sort of visions are so futuristic that a lot of people end up sort of just dismissing them from the beginning. I'd say just like approach things with a really open mind and sort of let yourself sort of devolve a bit into more of a like sort of like childlike or like learning state where you're just trying to absorb as much as possible and sort of form your own opinions after seeing a lot of different stuff. That's, I guess, more for like a crypto skeptic. But for someone who's like on the edge, I'd say, one, like, joining a project like ours would be a really great way to sort of like break in from the Web 2.0 world or into the Web 3.0 world. Don't feel like you need to take a Solidity boot camp or something like that before you can jump in. Like, I know a lot of people sort of are like, oh, I have this cushy Silicon Valley job and it's just hard to find the time find the time to learn Solidity or do the tutorials. And I'm like, you don't really need to take a full class or whatever. Like, you definitely just jump in. There's plenty of projects that are building. A lot of the development is like closer to a traditional web apps than you might think. Besides that, there's like tons of open source projects and stuff out there where it's like very low commitment to get started and try things out. So I don't know, it's a couple of random things there.
No, awesome. Yeah, I mean, and from your opinion, like technically speaking, what was kind of the were there any challenges or what surprised you in terms of switching over? Like, what makes a blockchain developer engineer different, than another engineer? What are some of the nuances, I guess, in blockchain that you wouldn't otherwise expect, or you would, definitely need, or everybody needs to learn up anyways if you're going to do it anyways because it's so new?
Yeah, I mean, I think just wrapping your mind around the concept of smart contracts and everything, this definitely takes a little bit of time to sort of get over that leap. And also can be extremely daunting when there's a million different acronyms and things being thrown around. So yeah, it's definitely not it's definitely not a straightforward space to jump into. Sort of a double-edged sword. It's at the intersection of so many different cool technologies that there's so much sort of an endless endeavor to keep up with all of it. But at the same time, it's kind of scary to get into and all of that. So yeah, again, I just say like sort of try to get a good sense of, get a good mental model of sort of what the landscape looks like, and zone in on some of the particular aspects that really interest you, whether that's the sort of more game theoretical stuff on the consensus layer, or if it is more of like sort of these new like application layer things. I don't know. There's definitely something out there for everyone. Yeah.
Nice. No, thanks for that. I think, there's a lot going on in the space, and the pace of innovation happens so quick. Things are moving, rather fast. There's kind of new applications coming out and better ways, and which is great. It's all maturing, Where do you think we're at? I mean, we're a long ways away, but do you think we're in a good spot as an industry in terms of where the technology is, where, how, building, the infrastructure, the tooling that's available for developers to come in, to not worry about like building stuff from scratch and being able to just, build cool ideas? Like, are we in a good spot?
That's a good question. I think with the advent of Ethereum, we're definitely a lot farther along. I think before Ethereum is you would have to roll your own blockchain basically.
That's
and
what you're right. That's when everybody was building chains. And like, I remember one team was like, we're just getting hacked every day. Like, it's just time consuming. It's resource, consumption, the human capital required to build your own chain. But I remember everybody was, I mean, there's still people building chains, but at one point, yeah, everybody was doing their own thing at that point.
yeah, definitely. But so, from that perspective, it's definitely gotten a lot farther along, because you don't, just the sheer number of resources you need to launch something in the space is a lot lower. So that's awesome. But I think right now, I think basically we can all agree that the demand for blockchains is really outpacing the supply, and so that's why you're sort of seeing. Well, that's why scalability is such a hot topic, and earlier this year, Ethereum was like basically virtually unusable, with like each transaction costing like thousands of dollars each. And so, yeah, I think we're kind of in this spot now where we're seeing a lot of these scalability solutions popping up. We'll see how that plays out and goes, but I think that's sort of like there's a lot of dust to settle around that. But things are moving farther along. Like you see a lot of like bigger sort of tech companies also announcing their intent to move into like this sort of like non-custodial DeFi space, like Square, for example, and all of that. So I think we're in a good spot in terms of like things becoming more usable, tech's getting more mature. It's an infusion of a lot of capital into the space, which is sort of a leading indicator to what's to come, and that it's going to take a lot of time for that capital to really convert into useful output. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Dope. You've kind of transitioned into my next like couple questions, really, and it comes around to the technology, the blockchain, right, itself. We have our audience trying to figure out, and projects and entrepreneurs and founders, like, what am I going to build on? Is Ethereum my only solution? Is Polkadot another solution? Solana. So you guys have chosen to develop on Solana. Before we get to Solana, 0x is developed on Ethereum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like, talk about some of the I mean, you just touched on it, like the challenges of the scalability stuff, like costing too much. What's been kind of your journey, I guess, coming from Ethereum, now co-founding your own app, and then actually deciding to develop on Solana?
Mm-hmm. So like you said, myself and my two other co-founders, we all come from 0x, and are long-term sort of developers in the Ethereum space, and continue to love Ethereum and all of that. But yeah, like I said, basically there's a kind of a simple fact that the demand for blockchains is way outpacing what they can supply right now. And so I think most people can agree that there is some multi-chain world that's emerging. And I think that no matter where you fall along the crypto tribalism spectrum, even if you're like an ETH maximalist, you can agree that scalability is an issue, and a lot of the primary tools that are emerging to sort of solve that are alternate networks that sit alongside Ethereum. So like things like Polygon, Optimism, etc.
Scale. Yeah.
So yeah, I think no matter how you slice and dice it, like there's these new chains popping up.
And is that good or bad? Like, is that going to help?
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to help, because it's going to help bring more supply to meet the demand, or else people are going to be stuck paying thousands of dollars to move funds into Compound still, and all that. So it's definitely a good thing. But in terms of user experience, it's a impending bad thing, or it's currently not great. Like basically, if you think like the UX of crypto is bad now, it's essentially about to get worse on this sort of whole new dimension. And
are
so
you talking about like bridging and stuff, like going from one network to another? And
yeah, and sort of the goal for Phantom is like, we want to help enable users to use blockchain applications no matter where they're implemented or how they're implemented. And users should not necessarily even, there's some level of abstraction that exists out there in which user doesn't necessarily know what blockchain this application is running on. They just know they want to use it, whether that's DeFi or NFT thing. What that correct level of abstraction is, I think we're still trying to figure that out, and that's going to be part of our challenge. But yeah, things like bridging is definitely an issue. I think most people who have bridged assets just usually include the word scary in like the experience. Or like they don't know where their assets are or whatever. It's just a very scary process. And so those are the types of experiences and things that we really want to sort of hone in on, and potentially invent new mental models or whatever to help fix that. That really is going to depend on what the users are saying and all of that.
But you're not really in control of that aspect, right? Are you saying you're hoping, so you built, kind of obviously this consumer facing app, and you're going to let kind of the back end take care of itself, like the blockchain's figured out. However it lands, you guys just want to be prepared to be able to integrate and be able to transact across, interoperability across multiple chains, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we want to produce the outcome where someone is able to freely navigate multiple chains
For sure.
well. And I'd say that, well, we're definitely not necessarily constraining ourselves to the UI layer or whatever. I think whatever needs to be done to help push that forward, we're more than game to experiment with. So yeah, I'd say that. Anyway, but like that's sort of my multi-chain spiel. So
which is important.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for touching on that, because we do have maximalists. We do have people thinking they need to develop on one chain. And I think right now, like, that's where we're at. Like, you pick a chain, and right now everybody's kind of getting mature. There are options, right? There are options available. And everybody does see that it is going to be a multi-chain kind of universe. And you can operate within that, and hopefully it flows, and you don't have to worry about what network you're on, because again, you're having NFTs too. So, if you mint an NFT on this network and you want to, move it around, sell it, like it's all going to play a role, and the user shouldn't have to worry about, I need to stick to like one ecosystem rather than the other.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, if you are a blockchain maximalist, like, and if you're like really, you want this to happen. I mean, you want the demand to be so high that like, we all have to like be banding together to produce new solutions and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's kind of where we're coming from. And
Cool.
in terms of Solana first, we basically just wanted to explore a nascent ecosystem that is like looking to innovate in this scalability sort of
Yeah,
arena.
yeah.
And so, yeah, we sort of like looked at a bunch of different sort of L1s and stuff, and ultimately ended up on Solana based on a lot of the developer activity we're seeing. Quite close with the Solana guys and love what they're doing. And yeah, so
Awesome.
yeah.
No, that's good. I just interviewed Anatoly like for the previous conference, and that went well. And it's interesting because which I told him, like, Solana was my first research, like on our VC side. It was my first research project, and I had like I told him I graded him like a C, like on a scale of A to an F. I gave him like a C, but that was because there's no community yet. I was like, but give this thing like another 12 to 18 months, right? And it was a buy signal for us. But no, the team's great. Like, they've been working on it for quite some time. I remember going to their meetups and stuff here in San Francisco. So we're talking about like MetaMask and like tokens and all that. So if you're developing on Solana, are you talking about like what tokens can you hold? Like ERC20? Like, is it just Solana side? How does it function, operate?
Yeah, well, in its current form, you are able to interact with and manage Solana tokens and SPL tokens, which are basically the equivalent of ERC20 on Solana.
Is that their standard, or is that like a wrapper, or how does that?
Yeah, that's sort of like this what the standard is called, like SPL.
So users
And
can deposit their ERC20 tokens, and then you can I guess hold that within your guys' wallet. Is that what you're saying?
well,
Or
there are sort of bridges and stuff to help you do something like that, but there are other SPL tokens that are sort of native to Solana. The same way, like DAI is a native ERC20.
yeah.
They have equivalents like SRM tokens
Oh
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever on Solana. But anyway, in the current state, the wallet is basically completely geared around the Solana experience. But that being said, and we believe in all the multi-chain stuff that I was just talking about, and our next move is to support Ethereum and other EVM based chains. And once we support that, then the wallet will be sort of this hybrid multi-chain app that you will be able to just deposit normal ERC20s or SPLs or what have you, and be able to manage all of those in one place.
And I think you answered this, but maybe I didn't quite catch on. Like, you chose Solana first, although coming from the Ethereum ecosystem, and you guys are, developers in that world. You chose Solana first for the innovation, kind of the growth aspects, and like what the they're tackling a lot of that transaction stuff. So that was a decision to go to Solana first, with the intention of incorporating other chains as things unfold, and once you get past kind of this first iteration of leveraging, I guess, Solana as a blockchain. And that ecosystem, because they're growing pretty big.
Yeah, it was just a matter of sequencing basically, and also for ourselves, we wanted to explore some new technology and see what else is out there. Just get out of our own little bubble. And so that's what sort of motivated this idea of not going Ethereum first specifically. But Ethereum's our bread and butter, and we contributed very heavily to all of that. So definitely looking to like sort of bring the experience that we're sort of honing and polishing right now over to Ethereum soon.
And technically speaking, was it tough, like, to develop on Solana? Pretty resources, the docs, the education stuff, was that all like ready to rock and roll? Because that's one thing with Ethereum, right? And this, like, it's the developer, it's the community, it's the ecosystem, it's the amount of resources that are available, free video content, people just building on it, right? That network effect. Was that similar experience on the Solana side?
I mean, it's definitely more nascent, and definitely doesn't have as much
For sure, for
like
sure.
material and stuff out there.
Yeah.
But actually, when we were sort of starting 0x in 2017, like that world was also, I mean, it was just like almost
Similar,
the
yeah.
same thing. Yeah, it was very little out there. It was like a couple of videos here and there, but it was a lot of guesswork. But I mean, overall, it was a fun experience. So like, you know, another motivating factor for tackling Solana was that it's just a straight up L1. Ergonomically, it's very similar to working with Ethereum, both from a user perspective and a developer perspective. And so yeah, it was relatively straightforward. I mean, like the docs, obviously it's not as developed as Ethereum, but
For sure.
and we were helping actually contribute specifically on the NFT side on Solana and help define a lot of the standards there around how images get displayed and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like there's a lot of like getting our hands dirty in that sense.
Yeah.
But
What's needed? That's what's needed, especially when you guys are already applying, right, the tech and the solution based stuff. Like you contribute that back into the community, the ecosystem, and like the developer growth, right? And that's all needed, and you guys are providing that. Got to grow it somehow.
Yeah.
So Solana can't do it completely, right? Like they're focused on the core protocol itself and like, you know, taking care of that aspect, and then it requires everybody else to contribute one way or another.
Yeah, it's definitely a community effort. But yeah, I'll say one thing. I think like a lot of people, so like yeah, Solana doesn't have this like native EVM compatibility, and a lot of people have like docked it for that and all of that. But yeah, I guess interestingly enough, just kind of see it the way I've seen it being developed, like or developing is it is fostering its own little community, very tight-knit community, which is all working together to try to enable this new technology. And I think the EVM compatibility with some of the other chains promotes more of like a drive-by type behavior, where it's just like, hey, we have this working thing, we're just gonna we're gonna drive by and just like plop it over here, and like this is part of our like road show, or just like copy and pasting our contract system everywhere. But yeah, I mean, like because of that, Solana doesn't have that. It's sort of like fostering a bit more of a tight knit community, at least from what I've seen so far. Obviously, everything is still playing out, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting observation.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, I think we've gone over our time here. It's been a nice chat, man. We hope to not have you back, you know, somebody else on your team that can keep us updated. You guys launched, you know, fairly recently, you know, successful raise, right, to get you guys moving forward. So that's been great. We talked about Solana here. We talked about kind of what Phantom offers, and you know, the solutions provided to benefit the user. Not only that, affect the industry in terms of adoption and use cases and getting people, you know, interested even more. So where can people learn more about Phantom? Where can they go? Website and Discords and all that, if you want to, you know, provide that for us here.
Yeah, so you know, you can find all of our you know, information and stuff through phantom.app, which is the website. For any sort of notification and news, I think Twitter is the best bet, so twitter.com/phantom. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. So for everybody tuning in, this is Phantom, Brandon Millman, CEO and co-founder. Appreciate having him kind of just break down ecosystems, break down DeFi, break down developer, you know, activity in terms of getting into the space. So we appreciate kind of all your insights there and perspectives, and we hope to have you back. So everybody tuning in to Reimagine 2021, we hope you had a good time here, and we hope to, you know, have you back and see you again. All right, Brandon, you have a good one, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.